Bill of Exchange, continued, Part 2. Presentment for acceptance. When presentment for acceptance necessary. 74.1. Where a bill is payable at sight or after sight, presentment for acceptance is necessary in order to fix the maturity of the instrument. So, in other words, when they're taking you into foreclosure, if they're not presenting to you the bill of exchange or promissory note, there is no evidence that it is due and owing. Now, they'll say there's an acceleration clause, but in a foreclosure situation, it's impossible to have arrearages because the note is not due until maturity. All right. So if you're going to take this route, it's strongly encouraged to set up an escrow and start setting aside payments so you can show in good faith that you've set funds alongside while you're challenging the legality or the fact of whether or not the bank is truly the holder in due course of the instrument that you've been paying all these years. Now, the reason I bring this to your attention is I've read a number of Supreme Court cases where people have paid off their houses, and years down the road, somebody comes forward as a holder in due course with the note and forecloses on their property. And they go before the court and they show that they've made every payment, and the judge says, there is nothing I can do to help you. And the reason they're saying that is because they paid the wrong organization, and the organization that they paid was not the holder in due course of the note. If you are fortunate enough to have ever paid off entirely your note, make sure that you get the original note back. If they do not give you the original note back, you need to turn around and sue them for every payment you've ever made, plus damages, because the fact remains that the note is still out there, and someday someone can come forward with that note and foreclose on your property if you do not pay them upon maturity of the note. Express stipulations. 2. Where a bill expressly stipulates that it shall be presented for acceptance, or where a bill is drawn payable elsewhere than at the residence or place of business of the drawee, it must be presented for acceptance before it can be presented for payment. Other cases. 3. In no other case is presentment for acceptance necessary in order to render liable any party to the bill. Presentment excused. 75. Where the holder of a bill drawn payable elsewhere than at the place of business or residence of the drawee has not time, with the exercise of reasonable diligence, to present the bill for acceptance before presenting it for payment on the day that it falls due, the delay caused by presenting the bill for acceptance before presenting it for payment is excused and does not discharge the drawer and endorsers. Sight Bill 76. Subject to this act, when a bill payable at sight or after sight is negotiated, the holder must either present it for acceptance or negotiate it within a reasonable time. If not presented. 2. If the holder does not comply with the requirements of subsection 1, the drawer and all endorsers prior to that holder are discharged. Reasonable time. 3. In determining what is reasonable time within the meaning of this section, regard shall be had to the nature of the bill, the usage of the trade with respect to similar bills, and the facts of the particular case. Rule for presenting for acceptance. 77. A bill is duly presented for acceptance that is presented in accordance with the following rules. A. The presentment must be made by or on behalf of the holder to the drawee or to a person authorized to accept or refuse acceptance on his behalf at a reasonable hour on a business day and before the bill is overdue. B. Where a bill is addressed to two or more drawees who are not partners, presentment must be made to all of them unless one has authority to accept it for all, in which case presentment may be made to him only. C. Where the drawee is dead, presentment may be made to his personal representative. And D. Where authorized by agreement or usage, a presentment through the post office is sufficient. Excuses. 78. 1. Presentment in accordance with the rules set out in section 77 is excused And a bill may be treated as dishonored by non-acceptance where A, the drawee is dead or is a fictitious person or a person not having capacity to contract by bill. B, after the exercise of reasonable diligence, the presentment cannot be effected. Or C, although the presentment has been irregular, acceptance of has been refused on some other grounds. No excuses. 2. The fact that the holder has reason to believe that the bill on presentment will be dishonored does not excuse presentment. Time for acceptance 79. The drawee may accept a bill on the day of its due presentment to him for acceptance or at any time within 2 days thereafter. Dishonor 2. When a bill is duly presented for acceptance and is not accepted within the time mentioned in subsection 1, the person presenting it must treat it as dishonored by non-acceptance. Loss of rights 3. If the person does not treat the bill as dishonored, the holder loses his right of recourse against the drawer and endorser. Date of acceptance 4. In the case of a bill payable at sight or after sight, the acceptor may date his acceptance thereon as of any of the days mentioned in subsection 1, but not later than the day of his actual acceptance of the bill. Refusing acceptance 5. If the acceptance is not dated as described in subsection 4, the holder may refuse to take the acceptance and may treat the bill as dishonored by non-acceptance. Dishonor by non-acceptance 80. A bill is dishonored by non-acceptance when A, it is duly presented for acceptance and such an acceptance as is prescribed by this act is refused or cannot be obtained, or B, presentment for acceptance is excused and the bill is not accepted. Recourse 81. Subject to this act, when a bill is dishonored by non-acceptance, an immediate right of recourse against the drawer and endorsers accrues to the holder, and no presentment for payment is necessary. Qualified acceptance 82. 1. The holder of a bill may refuse to take a qualified acceptance and, if he does not obtain an unqualified acceptance, may treat the bill as dishonored by non-acceptance. Presumption of assent. 2. When the drawer or endorser of a bill receives notice of a qualified acceptance and does not within a reasonable time express his dissent to the holder, he shall be deemed to have assented thereto. In other words, when they're negotiating your instruments prior to paying you and never disclosing to you that they were going to sell your instrument for profit, they were going to access your trust through your credit application and then extend it back to you in checkbook money and allege that you somehow got a loan. If you don't dispute this, if you don't step in there and correct the record, then you have been presumed and assumed to assent to the conditions that you now are in. Qualified acceptance without authority 83. Where a qualified acceptance is taken and the drawer or endorser has not expressly or impliedly authorized the holder to take a qualified acceptance or does not subsequently assent thereto, the drawer or endorser is discharged from his liability on the bill. Let's go over that again. Qualified acceptance without authority. Did you grant them the authority? Did they provide full disclosure to you? Where a qualified acceptance is taken and the drawer or endorser has not expressly or impliedly authorized the holder to take a qualified acceptance or does not subsequently assent thereto, the drawer or endorser is discharged from his liability on the bill. Partial acceptance 2. This section does not apply to a partial acceptance of which due notice has been given. Presentment for payment. Necessity for presentment 84. 1. Subject to this act, a bill must be duly presented for payment. If not presented, 2. If a bill is not duly presented for payment, the drawer and endorser are discharged. Manner of presentment 3. Where the holder of a bill presents it for payment, he shall exhibit the bill to the person from whom he demands payment. And the reason for that is so you can inspect it, so you can make sure it's authentic. you're the only one that can authenticate your signature. You're the only one that can verify the document is legitimate. And thus, before they command payment from you, you have a right to inspect said negotiable instrument. Time for presentment. 85.1. A bill is duly presented for payment that is presented when the bill is A, not payable on demand on the day it falls due, or B, payable on demand within a reasonable time after its issue in order to render the drawer liable, and within a reasonable time after its endorsement in order to render the endorser liable. Reasonable time. 2. In determining what is a reasonable time within the meaning of this section, regard shall be had to the nature of the bill, the usage of trade with respect to similar bills, and the facts of the particular case. By and to whom. 86.1. Presentment of a bill must be made by the holder or by a person authorized to receive payment on his behalf, at the proper place as defined in sections 87, and either to the person designated by the bill as payer or to his representative or a person authorized to pay or to refuse payment on his behalf, if with the exercise of reasonable diligence such person can there be found. 2. Acceptors. 2. When a bill is drawn on or accepted by two or more persons who are not partners and no place of payment is specified, presentment must be made to all of them. Personal representation. When the drawee or acceptor of a bill is dead and no place of payment is specified, presentment of the bill must be made to a personal representative if there is one, and with the exercise of reasonable diligence he can be found. Proper place for presentment. 87. A bill is presented at the proper place, A, where a place of payment is specified in the bill or accepted and the bill is there presented. B, where no place or payment is specified but the address of the drawee or acceptor is given in the bill and the bill is there presented. C, where no place of payment is specified and no address given and the bill is presented at the drawee's or acceptor's place of business, if known, and if not, at his ordinary residence, if known, or D, in any other case, if presented to the drawee or acceptor wherever he can be found, or if presented at his latest known place of business or residence. Sufficient presentment. 88. Where a bill is presented at the proper place as defined in sections 87 and after the exercise of reasonable diligence, no person authorized to pay or refuse payment can there be found. No further presentment to the drawee or acceptors is required. Presentment at post office. 89. Where the place of payment specified in the bill or acceptance is any city, town, or village, and no place therein is specified, and the bill is presented at the drawee's or acceptor's known place of business or known ordinary residence therein, and if there is no such place of business or residence, the bill is presented at the post office or principal post office in such city, town, or village, such presentment is sufficient. Through post office. 2. Where authorized by agreement or usage, a presentment through the post office is sufficient. Delay in presentment. 90. Number 1. Delay in making presentment of a bill for payment is excused where the delay is caused by circumstances beyond the control of the holder and not imputable to his default, misconduct, or negligence. Diligence. 2. Where the cause of delay ceases to operate, presentment must be made with reasonable diligence. When presentment is dispensed with. 91. Presentment of a bill for payment is dispensed with. A, where after the exercise of reasonable diligence, presentment as required by this act cannot be effected. B, where the drawee is a fictitious person. C, with respect to the drawer, where the drawee or acceptor is not bound as between himself and the drawer to accept or pay the bill, and the drawer has no reason to believe that the bill would be paid if presented, or D, with respect to an endorser, where the bill was accepted or made for the accommodation of the endorser, and he has no reason to expect that the bill would be paid if presented. E. By waiver of presentment, express or implied. Not dispensed with. 2. The fact that the holder has reason to believe that the bill will, or on presentment, be dishonored does not dispense with the necessity for presentment. When no place specified, 92. 1. When no place of payment is specified in a bill or acceptance, presentment for payment is not necessary in order to render the acceptor liable. If place specified. 2. When a place of payment is specified in a bill or acceptance, the acceptor, in the absence of an express stipulation to that effect, is not discharged by the omission to present the bill for payment on the day that it matures. But if any suit or action is instituted thereon before presentation, the cost thereof shall be in the discretion of the court. Delivery on payment. 3. When a bill is paid, the holder shall forthwith deliver it to the party paying it. Time for presentment. Let's go back here. Delivery on payment. When a bill is paid, the holder shall forthwith deliver it to the party paying it. All right? When you have successfully paid off a note in full, when's the last time you ever got it back? And if they can't give it to you, then they accepted all those payments under the false pretenses that they were the holder in due course. And we have a problem, Houston. All right? So pay attention to this, because this is super important and it happens every day to people. All right? You need the original instrument back, not a copy, the original. Time for presentment. 93.1. Where the address of the acceptor for honor of a bill is in the same place where the bill is protested for non-payment, the bill must be presented to him not later than the day following its maturity. Again, very important. Parties in different places. 2. Where the address of the acceptor for honor is in a place other than the place where the bill is protested for non-payment, the bill must be forwarded not later than the day following its maturity for presentment to him. Excuses for delay. 3. Delay in presentment or non-presentment is excused by any circumstances that would, in case of the acceptance by a drawee, excuse delay in presentment for payment or non-presentment for payment. Dishonor by non-payment. 94. A bill is dishonored by non-payment when A. It is duly presented for payment and payment is refused or cannot be obtained, or B. Presentment is excused and the bill is overdue and unpaid. Recourse. 2. Subject to this act, when a bill is dishonored by non-payment, an immediate right of recourse against the drawer, acceptor, and endorsers occurs to the holder. Let's see, I think we just covered dishonor. Let's check. These overlap each other, so I'm just checking to see where we left off. Yep, we'll start back here with notice of dishonor, because we just went through recourse. 94. Yep, we'll start here at notice of dishonor when we come back. Stick around, because we're going to get into the good part down here. Consumer bills and notes. Nobody ever talks about it. Nobody ever talks about this beautiful section right here. But it's important to read through this all. So, thank you for all your support, and we'll see you here after a bit.